Hi, I'm Jim Haviland. I just want to talk you through a little bit of the process and tools we use at Impact Architects to help implement your business operating system. Because that's really the key here, is we really believe that you're going to eventually need your own operating system. But we start with the traditional frameworks. All these books describe frameworks that have been put into books and taught to people. A lot of people have seen Traction by Gino Wickman. Great process there. They call that one EOS. Scaling Up, that's also called the Rockefeller Habits. Obviously, Jim Collins has been writing books that we all reference on a regular basis. This and 20 other books like this are all describing business operating systems. And it's really it's the framework for operating the business, regardless of what your capability set is, whatever your subject matter expertise is, you're going to have to build a business around that expertise if it's going to grow and succeed. So what you need, in our opinion, is a modern integrated business operating system. So we pull together all those time-tested tools. All those operating systems are all based on the same stuff, guys. Peter Drucker, Jim Collins, Gino Lencioni, Michael Gerber, all these folks publish tools and approaches from research or from experience on how to pull these things together. And so it isn't theory. It's all stuff that's been working for a while. It's simple and it's holistic. It's really got to cover all the bases so that you don't have to just keep bolting on more tools. They all work together. And we use the science that goes into trying to establish a great culture. And culture, sociologists will tell you, can be defined by rituals, artifacts, and language. So if you want to have a very intentional culture, a very intentional culture of accountability, of accomplishment, you want to have the rituals, artifacts, and language to support that. And we establish these things. We help companies take this on by teaching through a very standard pedagogical method called concepts, tools, and disciplines. So the idea we have to teach some concepts. We try to break it down into relatively simple stuff, but everyone gets to understand some concepts. And then we use those concepts to implement the tools. The tools come from all of these time-tested tools that we're talking about, and they all kind of fit together through a set of disciplines. We know that if we do this one on a regular basis, it feeds into this one, and so on and so forth. So concepts, tools, and disciplines, you'll hear that quite a bit, because the reality is here, this is all really simple stuff, but it's not easy. You're going to have to make changes. You're going to have to make choices. And by giving you the concepts and the tools to simplify the decisions that have to go into that, and then really relying on those disciplines to help us implement and then refresh those decisions on a regular basis, it breaks it all down to it's much easier, almost easy to build a truly great business. So one of the things we talk about in our approach is that isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. We actually tune our approach to the operating system to where you are in your size and your growth. And so we have a model that we actually built that talks about this, that actually sets up these stair steps that align with the hierarchy of needs, the Maslow hierarchy of needs. We all have to go through there. You have to go through these steps to get to the next place. And there's a couple of things here. You want to move on to the next stage and on to the next stage. That's how we grow. That's how we become a better and better company. That's how we get to where we want to go. But also, it's a known place. We predict what we're going to need to have to be good at every one of these layers. And by the way, you have to keep evolving as individuals, as leaders, and all the people you carry with you have to evolve as well. So we really can predict what is needed to get you, further and further along this path. So you're not feeling your way around. You can actually just know where we want to go, make intentional choices, and really build towards getting there. Every one of the operating systems has a model. We leverage the 9 core competency model that's part of the 90 operating system. Vision being about making it very clear to everybody where you're going and somehow you're going to get there. That's all of the core features of, hey, this is who we are as people. This is who we are as a company. This is really what we're trying to accomplish. We have a focus filters is an approach we use for defining your vision, having a very succinct way of defining your customers so you know exactly who you're going after, having a really well-established way of setting goals, and that's, from our long-term goal, we call it the compelling audacious goal versus the big, hairy, audacious goal, with Jim Collins' term, because big, hairy probably isn't as descriptive as something that's compelling, all the way down to 3-year plans, 1-year plans, quarterly plan, and then down to the place where this week, if I do these things, I'm going to be moving towards these goals. We also have to be super great at people. People is the most important one, is the one that's most likely to uncover your weaknesses. So we really want to make sure that we're really clear with how we want to define roles for people, how we give them feedback, how we build trust. So a lot of great tools in there. Structure. So once we've got our people figured out, we have to put them in a structure so that they can work together. So as we grow, that structure becomes more and more important to make sure that we're not building up what we call a coordination overhead faster than we need to. We want to keep things as simple as possible, but also clear. Then we have to move into data. This is all about, hey, are we using data, information, really reliable stuff to make great decisions? Everyone has to make decisions. Are we making them based on things that we know are important and reliable? Then there's meetings. We're going to have meetings, but we should have great meetings. There's a whole course offering that I offer called No More Bad Meetings. It's all part of that. We know how to create a great meeting cadence, great how to formulate a great meeting all by itself, and how to get to that place where our meetings are not only effective, but also enjoyable. People really like them when you do them well, because we're actually collaborating and making decisions together. We feel progress. And there's process. We have to define our processes. I think Gino Wickman called it, we're going to make sure everything gets done, all the important stuff gets done the best right way every time. And certainly that's true of all organizations. As you grow, how you think about process has to evolve, and how you make sure that everyone follows process. Just because you need to be able to build these decision frameworks, these steps and these funnels for how things get done in your organization, and be able to rely that for the most part, all that stuff happens 80-90% of the time. It happens right. Then there's exit. And this is really something I call, the value building. Eventually this business you're building is going to have to be a transferable asset. Is it going to be an IPO? Is it going to be sold to somebody? Is it going to be bought by the employees? There's so many ways of thinking about that, but it's key to, as we're growing, as we're setting our plans, as we're setting our goals, that we are actually making sure that we're doing everything we can to build value in the organization, not just revenue. So, and we have tools that fit into supporting all of these things. We want to get better and better at all these things. And we want to aim for being 100% strong in each of these 9 core competencies, but just knowing that 80% is about as far as we're going to get, because the context changes around you, and we have a way of measuring that. And we have all these tools out there, and we're testing and bringing on more as we need to. But all the things you're familiar with from all the same people, all the books that I showed you earlier, that we've borrowed and configured each of those so they all fit together in a much more holistic way than we've had in other operating systems. And we also use the software 90. It's been used by a lot of people, constantly growing. By the time you see this, these numbers will be wrong because they've been growing at 50 to 100% every year. But it's a great way, even though you might eventually have a different software for managing working on the business. You got lots of software already for working in the business, but you need software for working on the business, how to keep all that information coordinated, all those plans, that vision. How do we disseminate that? That's what 90 does for you. And certainly when we start out with clients, we implement it inside of 90 just to keep you on the guardrails, and eventually you're going to make all your own decisions. But it's really been a great for all of our clients to have something where all that stuff lives, and it keeps everybody on track for as long as they need to until they master the tools themselves. So let's talk about the process. So when we talk about a proven process, this is a way that we consistently deliver our service to people, and we have ways of configuring each of these steps. But I just want to talk you through the basic concept here. We like to assess. We like to figure out where you are in the growth of your company and the maturity of your leaders, all that, because that assessment, we want to diagnose before we prescribe, right? So we can meet a leadership team, meet some people, and go, hey, let's spend some time. Let's ask some questions. Let's figure out where you are. And we have some standardized models. And from that, we say, okay, this is the process we think we should follow. And we try to get commitment. We kind of get buy-in from everybody, because if everyone's not together on it, we're not going to do it. I mean, if not everybody in the leadership team wants to help pull together and do great things, including implementing a business operating system, it's not going to go very well. So you need everybody kind of be bought in. Once we get that, then we start really putting all the tools in place with the leadership team, which is always where we start, to make sure that everyone else will follow along. Once the leadership team gets good at this stuff, that's what we're really trying to do: get the leadership team completely focused on where we're going, how we're going to get there, how to communicate, how to make things clear to everybody else. And then we roll it out to everybody else. And we want the whole organization using the same basic structures, all the same basic language, right? Remember, rituals, artifacts, and language, right? We want to establish that culture by teaching everybody these same rituals, artifacts, and language, so that everyone's pulling the same way. They're all rowing the same direction. There's amazing things. And then we get to this thrive. Eventually you're doing amazing work and you've mastered these tools, and then we don't need to work with you anymore. You're fine. You're off to the races. We're not here to spend forever with you. You're not dependent on us. We're going to help you figure out what you most need right now to get you to the next place, help establish your culture with all the tools and processes, rituals, artifacts, and language in the organization, help you get it out so that everyone's following along, and then eventually you're going to be great at this and you're going to go off on your own. And the people at the top of that pyramid I showed you, they have internal champions that are in charge of maintaining their operating system. Every billion-dollar company out there has a well-defined operating system. They maybe not call it that, but they certainly have a way of operating. And I've actually read many of the books on them, and they're all based on the same stuff. So how we get around this, very specifically, we typically have a set of workshops or sessions that we do with leadership teams to establish some of the tools. That's almost always the case. How we actually lay it out is really, once again, based on the diagnosis we do at the very beginning. We will try to assess, figure out what makes sense for where you are and where you have to go next. And I got to tell you, for me, it's 60, 90 days. I've had some clients like really be in a hurry. They want to go as fast as they possibly can, but you really have to have the time and energy to put into it. And that means you don't have day by day roles or turn the crank to keep the business running. That's probably not the case for most of you. Most founders, when they go on start this process, they have work to do every day. They don't have the time to be able to do it every day. So you work on this stuff every day. So 60, 90 days, sometimes 120 days to get all the basic tools in place. And we break it into a handful of what we call full day sessions or half day sessions. So I've done plenty of 4-hour half day sessions, plenty of full day sessions. It really depends on where you are, what the context of what you're doing. Is it we're going to get everyone together? Is it going to be a remote team because you're on 4 different continents? We make those kind of determinations. And when we apply these foundational tools, these are the tools you need to have in place for start to feel the impact of the operating system. All the stuff that helps you start to organize your day and your week and your quarter better, how to start being more clear about where you're going and how you're going to get there, and then getting into that pulse of making things better and better. So we work with leadership teams during this period, and eventually we move on to what we call the quarterly pulsing. There'll be a quarterly meeting, half day, full day, once again, depending upon where you're at. And then it's longer, it's like whatever that size is, probably twice that for the annual planning session. And along the path, as you start to get good at this stuff, as your leadership team starts to be a reliable resource in this, you'll start rolling it out to the rest of the organization. You'll have departments do it and have everybody kind of embrace the language and understand how they're participating in this process. So that's it. That's basically what we do. Business operating systems, we establish those within the organization by first diagnosing, assessing what needs to happen. We have a rich set of tools that are all proven, all been shown to be tremendously successful, that we can help a leadership team take on to get to the point where they can then establish the same rituals, artifacts, and language with all of their departments and everyone that works in the organization, and eventually gets to the point where they're thriving. So thanks so much. We'll be happy to ask questions.